Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me tonight is Ron. Jason and Joe are not available tonight. They've got some real life things in the way since we are not on our normal night tonight. So, Ron, thanks for stepping in. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I've been thinking about saying this all day. Kind of building up to it, but I feel like I'm a as much as I'm on here, I can't be a special guest anymore. I feel like I'm a bench player right now.
you're
I
the
come off
super
the bench when needed.
you're the super utility guy.
Exactly. But been thinking about that all day. Had a good day, so ready to
So,
roll.
sounds like I should get you a Nicky Lopez jersey to wear. That kind of fits you in perfectly since he literally, I think, can play all 9 positions. Plus, he pitched for Atlanta a couple times this year in blowouts. So
Yeah.
we'll get you a Nicky Lopez jersey. Man, boy, wasn't that one of the best trade deadline acquisitions anybody made? Who would have
Oh
known?
yeah.
Because Snit's really never been known to throw position players on the mound, but he did it a couple times to Nicky Lopez, and Nicky Lopez ended the year with a 0 ERA. I think the only position player to end with a 0 ERA. So, hey, something worked there. So, Ron, what are you drinking tonight?
I am having a Captain and Coke.
Good choice. That's one of my old go-tos. For me tonight, I'm of course still a little sour from how things ended, and I just feel like the name of this beer pretty much is going to say it all. I said what I said.
Hmm.
Usually a pretty safe bet with me. All right, so let's roll into it tonight. This is news that came out earlier today. Astros manager Dusty Baker is finally going to retire for good. He was a manager for 26 years. He finally got his first World Series win last year, which was him and Trey Mancini getting their first World Series rings were pretty much the only reason that I wasn't upset that the Astros won. To be fair, because Dusty had gotten close so many times, and just to fall short as many times as he did, I was glad to see Dusty finally win, and even with the Astros cheating history, that was never something I questioned with Dusty at the helm. He's always been a very honest, straightforward guy. He would not cheat. So I was not upset to see him win that. I also, to be honest, Ron, I was not surprised to see him step down once the Astros got eliminated. This whole season to me
Yeah.
kind of felt like Dusty was just trying to say, "Hey, can I get one more, get two in a row?" But you kind of felt like if he didn't get it, he was more than happy to step aside and move on.
Yeah, I felt it was coming sooner than later, especially after getting his first World Series ring. I figured only, I guess, only time will tell.
Hmm.
Figured if not this year, maybe next year would be his last one.
Yeah. And he's been doing just 1 year extensions the entire time. So they've always left it open for an easy exit for him if necessary. Let's see. As a player, he did win the World Series in '81 with the Dodgers. He did play for 19 seasons as well. So he's one of seven guys who have won a ring, both playing and managing. So that's a pretty exclusive list here. Alex Cora, Joe Girardi, Davey Johnson, Lou Piniella, Dave Roberts, and Mike Scioscia. I mean, dang.
Did he played for 19 years?
Yeah, played
So
for
he
19.
managed 26 on top of that.
Yeah, that
God damn,
that
that's a good career.
that is the definition of a lifer. My dad popped on. Jason's still in mourning. He is, but it's also Wednesday night, and that is one of his 13 bowling nights he has a week. It feels like sometimes. So even had he not been in mourning, he wouldn't have been on tonight anyway. Dusty though. Let's remember too, Ron. Dusty was one of the few guys left in baseball who was a teammate of Hank Aaron's. And the
Oh,
fact that
that's right.
Hank only just dying 2 years ago. It's kind of like things are coming full circle. The full end of one era, full enter of another era. He had a very successful career as a manager. 2,183 regular season victories. 7th all time in baseball history. He has 57 postseason victories. That's 4th all time. Remember, number 1 all time is Connie Mack, the only man to have 3,000 plus wins as a manager, 3,731. Some other names ahead: Tony La Russa, 2884, John McGraw, 2763, Bobby Cox, 2504, Joe Torre, 2326, and Sparky Anderson at 2194. All the gentlemen ahead of Dusty made the Hall of Fame. Ron, I see, especially now that he's got his ring, I see absolutely no reason why Dusty Baker will not join the list of Manager Hall of Fame members
Now,
as soon as his name's available for the committees.
now he wasn't eligible for the Hall of Fame because he was still managing. Is that how it worked?
No, he was eligible as a player, but not as a manager because he was actively managing. Now that you don't have player managers anymore, I don't think that eligibility steps into the way there. I don't believe it shouldn't anymore. Yeah, 2-time All-Star as a player, Gold Glove, 2 Silver Sluggers, 3 Manager of the Year, an MVP in the NLCS. Yeah, he was, honestly, he was borderline close as a player. He had a 37 career WAR as an outfielder, a touch low. He wasn't a heavy slugger, only 242 homers, but he did hold a 278 average over his career, which, I mean, over 19 years to hold a 278 average, there is nothing wrong with that. Finished 4th in the MVP voting in 1980 when he got his Silver Slugger, 7th in the MVP in 81 when he got Gold Glove and Silver Slugger. So, definitely Hall of very good as a player. I do think I do think, though, as a manager, I think now that he's got his ring, just his longevity, his wins, I feel like he should be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't see that being any issue of him getting in.
Yeah, I would hope not. Class act the whole way through. 12th manager who hit the 2,000 win plateau. He was the first black manager to do it. So that, just absolutely awesome to see. The only other manager to hit 2,000 wins who's not in the Hall of Fame is Bruce Bochy, who is also, again, still active. So hopefully, with all of that, we'll be seeing Dusty in the Hall of Fame in the next couple of years. Whatever committee would look at his stuff whenever they meet next, hopefully he will be a very quick election, I would think.
The funny thing is with that, it seems like those two almost faced off in the playoffs, managing against each other or
Baker
something like that. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. I wonder how many times they did, because I'm sure that they did several times, because
I think it was with San Francisco
and the Cubs.
And the Cubs,
Yeah.
and who else did he coach? Did he coach San Diego? I think that's in my head.
Bochy or Baker?
Bochy.
I think he did too. I could tell you if you give me 2 seconds here. Let me pull him up here. Oh, there he is. I almost pulled the wrong one up. Silly me. All right, Bochy, yeah. His managerial career started with the Padres back in 95. That's right. He was the manager when Ken Caminiti came over to the Padres.
Yeah.
That's right. I knew that sounded familiar. Yeah, Padres from 95 to 06, Giants from 07 to 19, and then the Rangers starting this year. And again, he had the 3 World Series rings with the Rangers with the Giants, every other year.
Yeah.
From 10 through 14? Yeah, 10 through 14. That was also pretty wild that it was literally every other year. You could almost make a safe bet on it. And let's remember that was also back when Tim Lincecum was still in his prime before he got hurt and lost his arm, and Barry Zito had a couple of those amazing postseason runs. I mean, those Giants teams were
Buster Posey.
Yeah. Well, and even Posey he only retired at the end of 20 or 21. So
yeah, I think it was 21.
Great talent he had out there, and boy, he knew what to do with it. All right, so that's it for Dusty. Looking at other managerial news, Bob Melvin is moving just across the state. He's leaving San Diego and joining San Francisco. And remember, Bob Melvin years ago, he played for the Giants, and it was a place he loved to be as a player. And it was a little bit surprising. You don't often see managers jump from one division team to another. The Giants, of course, did obtain permission from the Padres before, to interview him. And, the way things ended in San Diego with them dumping, 200 some $1 million into payroll, ending third and under 500, despite once again, and frankly, idiotically so, being aggressively buying at the trade deadline. It kind of felt like the whole time Bob Melvin in the front office and the ownership, nothing like the three cogs never really seemed to mesh together very well. Seemed like there was always friction out there. So hopefully that's good. Hopefully this will be a better experience for him. It's going to be a 3-year contract for Bob Melvin with the Giants. So yeah. I'm sorry, they were over 500 this year. They did get to 82 wins, but still. 258 million and 82 and 80 is not going to fly.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't. Although I have to say, Ron, I don't really think the dysfunction in the Padres locker room was Bob Melvin's fault.
no.
I don't think there was anything any manager in baseball could have done to get that odd collection of superstars and what's the word I want to use with Tatis here?
Misfit.
Yeah, misfit works. Cheating moron would be another good one.
There's other words, but we'll keep it PG-13.
Yeah, we won't go any farther into that. I should note that I would not put Fernando Tatis as anywhere within my top 10 for MVPs of my second place fantasy baseball team this year. Although it was a good draft pick. I don't regret the pick I spent on him because it was a pretty late pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was not by no means my MVP. That would be Mr. Acuna here. All right, so we'll see how that's going to go with Melvin. He's going to be replacing Gabe Kapler. Kapler didn't finish the year. They fired him 3 days left. He went 295 and 248 over the 3+ season. He did have that 107 win season in 2021. And, that was misfortune for the Giants to have to run into the for the Giants and the Dodgers to have to meet there, because I fully believe that the biggest reason Atlanta trounced the Dodgers so badly in the NLCS is because the Dodgers were completely spent trying to get past the Giants. So, and I even had the Giants beating the Dodgers. I think the result would have been the same. Neither team had anything left after that Titanic clash. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Ron, you've got experience with Gabe Kapler back from when he was the manager of Philadelphia.
Oh yeah.
Do you see Kapler getting one of these open jobs? I feel like maybe the Angels wouldn't be a terrible place for him to go, because one, expectations are basically as low as they can go, especially if they don't manage to re-sign Shohei Ohtani this offseason.
And I feel like, excuse me, if he goes anywhere, I think it honestly maybe the Mets, but I think the Angels would be a better landing spot, just for the fact of they're kind of in a rebuilding stage, especially if they don't sign Shohei.
Yeah, I think New York, with the media presence in New York, I think that is a terrible place for him to go. I think Los Angeles would be a better option. Also, Craig Counsell is being interviewed by New York right now to potentially be the new manager of the Mets. So that would open up Milwaukee's opening, and that would probably be a good spot for Kapler as well. Again, smaller market, good roster already there. So, and he's got he has a track record of success. And let's face it, man, how many managers go to Philly, manage like crap because they've got no team, leave Philadelphia, and then are successful everywhere else they go?
None. I don't
You
know.
sure about that?
No,
Terry Francona would have a big argument against that.
yeah, but look at all the other. Look what he had to go through though once he left Philly though too, and now look where he's at.
Retiring happy? Yeah,
Exactly.
I don't think he's too upset with how things turned out ever since he left Philadelphia. I think things worked pretty well for him.
Hey, Philly's just that team where it's like not a cakewalk and you suck, and then you're like, oh look what I can do with a good roster.
Let's rephrase that. Philadelphia as a city is like that, because look at the number of guys that it doesn't matter which Philadelphia team it is. They're great in Philadelphia, and then they suck everywhere else. Nick Foles would be my primary candidate for that. Or they suck in Philadelphia and they're good everywhere else. Terry Francona, Andy Reid. Although Andy didn't suck in Philadelphia, that was bad luck.
Or the player is on a sucky team, comes to Philadelphia and does amazing.
That's happened a few times. Not many titles out of it, though.
No.
All right. So Melvin's career record, 1,517 to 1,425 losses, 8 postseason appearances. Previously managed in Arizona, Seattle, Oakland, San Diego. So that is your new manager of the Giants. And he has won a manager of the year in both leagues. He's actually a 3-time winner. So I think it's a good move for the Giants. I think he'll be much happier in San Francisco than he was in San Diego. Granted, that doesn't take much. And now, in one of the more head-scratching moves I've seen so far this offseason, Kim Ng is no longer going to be the general manager of the Miami Marlins, even though she constructed a postseason roster and basically built that roster up from scratch. She was the highest ranking woman in a major men's North American professional sports front office. She was hired by the Marlins back in November of 2020, a move that Jason, Joe, and I actually really liked. She was, again, the first female GM in baseball, the NFL, NBA, or NHL. Her contract did include a mutual option for 24, but she actually declined her option because she wanted to become the president of baseball operations as well as the general manager, and the Marlins were not interested in doing that. I got to be honest, man, it makes no sense that they wouldn't do that because for a lot of teams, the GM is also the president of baseball operations. I know Alex Andopoulos carries both titles with the Braves. I think, doesn't Dombrowski carry both titles with the Phillies as well? I know he's the GM, and I can't remember he's got the president of operations as well. But
no, maybe
Phillies are separate. It doesn't matter, but it's pretty common. And apparently, when ESPN was talking to other baseball operations guys around the league, they were all shocked that the Marlins didn't offer that to her. Her deals at the trade deadline this year were masterful. Jake Berger and Josh Bell gave the Marlins just enough. They gave them just enough offense to squeak into that last wild card spot, so they at least made it to the playoffs.
I was happy with the move that she made to get Josh Bell. Like, he's all around amazing player.
Mm-hmm. And she was really smart about that because he didn't play well when he was shipped out to the West Coast last year. But she knew Josh Bell knows the NL East and the NL East pitching very well from all of his years with Washington. And he did a great job with the Marlins. And so, the fact that the front office has been basically in chaos since she got there. Let's remember Derek Jeter was the CEO of the Marlins, but, he stepped down. And then the vice president of player development and scouting was also fired not long after Jeter left. So, the fact of the matter that they would just that if that's all she wanted, she was doing a great job. So, as Jason's been known to say, the Marlins are going to Marlin and screw something up that's stupid that they should know better than to do, and that's exactly what happened here. I think losing Kim Ng is going to be a huge loss to that, huge loss to the organization. And I don't know if there's a great general manager candidate out there to replace her that can also deal with, all of that other inner working between the ownership and the front office. So it's gonna, I'm not going to say the Marlins are headed for a downfall, Ron, but I am going to say I will not be shocked if the Marlins kind of regress back to the mean next year and are more like a fourth place, third place team that's just barely scraping around the 500 level.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's all she wanted was the title. Give it to her. She did
Yeah,
amazing
she's earned it.
things.
Yeah, she has absolutely earned that title. So, and it's also a pity to see see that there's now no female president in the front offices across baseball again. That's something that needs to change quickly, and hopefully she finds a new job quickly.
I'm sure somebody will see what she did and try to sway her to come over.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. All right, the Golden Glove Award finalists were announced. We'll run down the American League first, then we'll hit the National League. For the American League at first base, you have Nathaniel Lowe from Texas, Ryan Mountcastle from Baltimore, and Anthony Rizzo from the Yankees. Rizzo is a four-time winner and a finalist last year, although he hasn't won one with the Yankees. He was the leader of the AL first basemen with +6 out above average. So we'll see if Rizzo will take that from there. Honestly, Ron, I wouldn't be upset with any of the three. I think all three of them would be well deserved for the honor.
Yeah.
Looking at second base, you have Mauricio Dubon from Houston, Andres Jimenez from Cleveland, and Marcus Semien from Texas. Once again, great set of three. Jimenez, of course, was the winner last year. Jimenez had +18 outs above average. Third best for any fielder at any position for the year. I kind of feel like this is Jimenez's to lose, but Dubon I could definitely see taking it. I could see Semien taking it back, but it's going to be tough to go against +18.
Yeah. I did Dubon play second all year is the better question.
Let me see here.
Because I think he started there because Altuve was hurt.
Yeah, he's more of a see, and this is going to get to an argument I'm going to have when we're done with the National League about where the utility guys are. He played second base, and if I could, let me get down to the fielding section here. This year for Houston, he played everywhere. He played most of the year at second base, 79 games at second, 38 in the outfield, 29 in center, specifically 9 in left, 2 in right, 9 games at shortstop, 2 appearances at first, and an appearance at third. So he basically played everywhere but catch and pitch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sounds like he really ought to be under the utility category and just the utility category. But anyway, I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's going to be Jimenez who takes it.
Yeah, it's going to be close. Semien has a great glove at second too. So
I really Dubon's I think is going to be a pretty distant third place here. Speaking of third, let's talk about third base. You've got Alex Bregman of the Astros, Matt Chapman of the Blue Jays, and Jose Ramirez of the Guardians. Chapman, he's always going to be on the list there. 3-time winner of a Gold Glove, 2-time Platinum Glove winner. Although he hasn't won one since 2021. Bregman and Ramirez, of course, solid fielders. I feel like it's going to be Chapman, though.
Yeah, I was going to say Chapman, just watching some of his highlights, the way he moves at third and can get the ball out.
Fluid and smooth. Best way I can describe it. Looking at the shortstops, you got Carlos Correa in Minnesota, Corey Seager in Texas, and Anthony Volpe in New York. I was pleasantly surprised that Volpe showed, Is it Volpe or is it Volpe?
I think it's Volpe.
Okay. It does have an accent on the E, so my apologies there. Volpe, his glove might not have been there all year, or his bat might not have been there all year. His glove most certainly was.
Oh yeah.
16 defensive runs saved. Correa, though, he's always going to be in the picture. This would be Correa's second in 3 years. He last had it in 2021, finalist last year. So my guess would be between Correa and Volpe. Hopefully, I would think 16 defensive runs saved should give him an edge, but sometimes they don't like to give it to the rookie. They sometimes like to give it to the more experienced vet. So we'll see about that one. But I would like to see Volpe because he made some great plays. Moving on to the outfield, and I'm going to quickly say that I think the Gold Glove should go back to just listing all outfielders together and not breaking it, and then just picking the top 3 and not breaking it down by position. And I'm just going to leave that at that.
I think it would be
left
a lot
field.
easier.
Anyway, left field for the American League: Austin Hayes of the Orioles, Stephen Kwan of the Guardians, and Dalton Varsho of the Blue Jays. Kwan did win it last year as a rookie. Varsho, he was a right field finalist last year when he was with the Diamondbacks. His defense did not drop off in the move to Toronto. He tied for 5th at plus 11 outs above average. Kwan was only at plus 9. Hayes, I wouldn't be shocked either. Honestly, Ron, this might be one of the closest ones. I don't really have a favorite right now. I think it would be a good pick for any of those 3 guys.
I like Hayes. I'd pick him over Qua.
All right. Certainly wouldn't be upset. This is a Baltimore-friendly podcast, even if none of us are Baltimore fans. Center fielder, you got Kevin Kiermaier of the Blue Jays, Luis Robert Jr. of the White Sox, probably the only thing that went well for the White Sox this year, and Julio Rodriguez of Seattle, of course. This is going to be another close one. You've got one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball, Kiermaier, who's got 3 Gold Gloves. You've got Robert, who's got 1, and then J-Rod, of course, who doesn't have any because it's only his second year. They were the top 3 center fielders in the AL by outs above average. Kiermaier and Robert had plus 13, Julio at plus 12. Honestly, Ron, call it a wash, pick a name out of a hat, and I think they got the right answer.
Honestly, I think it's going to be Kiermaier.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it's any of the 3. Moving on to right field, you got Adolis Garcia of Texas, Kyle Tucker of the Astros, and Alex Verdugo of the Red Sox. Tucker is the reigning Gold Glover in right field for the AL, but Verdugo and Garcia, they had great seasons as well. Verdugo led the right fielders with 9 defensive runs saved. Garcia was 3rd with 7. StatCast had his arm, though, as the most valuable throwing arm of the AL outfielders with that cannon that he has attached to it. So we'll see which way that goes. I'm kind of leaning Tucker on this one, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Verdugo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm leaning more Verdugo just because I think he had a little bit better glove, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, 9 defensive run saves from right field is great. Looking at catchers, and this is going to be another close one. Jonah Heim of Texas, Alejandro Kirk of Toronto, and Adley Rutschman of Baltimore. So the cool thing here, Ron, is there's going to be a first-time winner in the AL. All these guys would be their first win. Will it be Rutschman, who might be the best all-around catcher in baseball? I mean, he's so balanced defensively. He handles that pitching staff so well. Heim is a great framer. He controls the run game. He's got a plus 13 fielding run value. That's per StatCast. And then Kirk led AL catchers on defensive runs saved at 17. That's another tough one. And once again, pull a name out of a hat and you pick the right one. That's how I feel. Looking at the pitchers in the American League, you've got Jose Barrios of Toronto, Sonny Gray of Minnesota, Pablo Lopez of Minnesota. None of these 3 have had a Gold Glove, so they will all be first-timers. Barrios was a finalist last year, but lost to Shane Bieber. So, I got to be honest, I don't know the AL pitchers well enough to know who's the better fielder, so whoever wins it, great job.
I think, honestly, I think it's going to be Gray.
Gray? All right.
I'm pretty sure I had him and Lopez on my fantasy team, but
Yeah, it doesn't matter though. I
I
don't think we get credit for pitchers when they make defensive
no,
plays.
but I was keeping up with them, and
All right.
when I would do my lunchtime routine of checking things out. I think Gray, I liked him better than Lopez.
That's why you missed out on Ellie De La Cruz because at that point in the year I was starting at 5 a.m. So I was at work at 4:50 and was making moves. Looking at the three utility guys, Marcio Dubon once again at utility, Zach McKinstry of Detroit, Taylor Walls of Tampa Bay. So, you know what? Here's my thing with I love the utility award. I love that it's there. If you're, I feel like you shouldn't be eligible for both a position and the utility award.
Yeah, decide which one you want to put them in, and then give it to somebody else, whichever one's not in, if that makes sense.
Like in Dubon's case, I think the appropriate place for him to be is utility
Yeah.
because again, he only played where was it 79 games at second base. That's not even half the season. So I don't care how well he played at second base. He shouldn't be there over someone who played the entire season at second base. Put him at utility. That's why it's there. That's why they added the utility category. Now, that said, if he wins as utility, I will be 100% okay with that. I think he's going to have tough competition from Zach McKinstry because Zach McKinstry played more than 20 games at third, second, short, right, and left.
Yeah.
So, wow. And Walls, he didn't have as many positions, but he played second, third, and shortstop. So, he was the Rays plug him in anywhere guy. So we'll see who takes that. All three guys, though, very, very solid definitions of the word utility player. All right, looking at the National League. First base, Freddie Freeman, shocker, I know. Carlos Santana and Christian Walker. Walker, I wasn't surprised to be nominated yet again. I was surprised Carlos Santana was picked over Matt Olson, but Santana did lead all first basemen with 11 defensive runs saved. Somehow has never won a Gold Glove despite being in the league for 14 years. I was surprised by that. Freddie being on there, that, again, not a surprise. I think it's going to be Christian Walker, though, personally.
Yeah, I'd have to say Walker. He's been playing a hell of a year. That's for sure.
He has one of the best gloves in baseball, period. All right, second base, Nico Horner of the Cubs, Hae-Sung Kim of the Padres, and Bryson Stott of the Phillies. I think it should be between Horner and Stott, excuse me. And here's it's going to be super close. When you're looking at outs above average, Stott's at plus 16, Horner's at plus 15. Kim's only at plus 10, but remember, Kim also should be he should be a utility guy. He shouldn't be a second base guy.
Yeah.
Same thing, like I said, with the American League. That said, I don't think it matters. It's between Horner and Stott. And I think Horner's going to edge it, but I wouldn't be shocked either if Stott gets it.
I don't know. I'd have to, well, just because he's a Philly, but I have to go with Stott just because of watching that glove and what he has done, being only second year in the league and what he's put up.
Oh yeah, if Stott wins it, definitely deserving. Either Horner or Stott. I think either guy made a great case to win it. Looking at third base, you got Brian Hayes of Pittsburgh, Ryan McMahon of Colorado, and Austin Riley of the Braves. I was a little surprised to see Riley up there, to be honest. This is the first time since 2012 that we're going to see a Gold Glove in the National League at third base that's not named Nolan Arenado.
Which is nice.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. So, honestly, I would be shocked if it's not Brian Hayes. Hayes, I think, was by far the best third baseman in the game.
Oh, yeah.
In the field. 17 outs, plus 17 outs above average, 21 defensive run saves. McMahon was at plus 11 and 17. Riley was at 0 and 9. So I think it's going to be Brian Hayes.
Yeah,
I will say, watching Riley this year, I did feel like his defense was improved.
yeah.
Um,
From
but
last year, I would say so.
but he's not catching Brian Hayes this year. No way now. All right, looking at these shortstops, Francisco Lindor of the Mets, because I guess they had to get somebody on the list. Dansby Swanson of the Cubs and Ezequiel Tovar of Colorado. Lindor actually does, to be fair, he does have 2 previous Gold Gloves from his time in Cleveland. He was plus 6 outs above average, but I really think it's going to be Swanson. He led all major leaguers with plus 20 outs above average. Tovar did really well, plus 16, but I think it's going to be Dansby winning it for the second year in a row.
Yeah.
In left field, you've got Ian Happ of the Cubs, David Peralta of the Dodgers, and Eddie Rosario of the Braves. That Eddie kind of surprised me a little bit, to be honest. That said, I think it's probably going to be Ian Happ. He was tied for third among all outfielders with 12 outfield assists, 2 defensive runs saved. Peralta did have 7 defensive run saves. Rosario had 3. I feel like it's with all of Happ's outfield assists on top of the DRS. I feel like it's probably going to be Ian Happ. I'd like to see Eddie win it. I got to be honest though, I don't really think of Eddie as a great fielding left fielder, but I mean, I guess he showed enough this year that they said, "Hey, we're going to tap you in."
Give you a chance.
I guess. Over in center field, Brenton Doyle of the Rockies, Michael Harris II of the Braves, Alec Thomas of the Diamondbacks. This is another tight one. Doyle is ridiculous. He's got great range. He's got a cannon of an arm. His field run value metric is at plus 21. That's a StatCast stat. Doyle and Harris tied with outs above average at plus 7. Thomas was at plus 5. All 3 would be first-time winners out at center field. I just have a feeling Doyle and Harris are going to be fighting for center field Gold Glove for a long time coming because they are both great outfielders. Not to take anything away from Thomas. He had a great year too. He's also a great outfielder, but I think Doyle and Harris are probably 2 of the most elite defensive outfielders in baseball right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel bad for Doyle just because he's playing for the Rockies.
Yeah. Although that is an outfield that lets you really show off your range and your arm so well because it's huge. So maybe that'll help him. In right field, and I've got some issues here. You got Mookie, which I'm fine with, Tatis, which I'm not fine with, and Lane Thomas of the Nationals, who I'm really not fine with. Yeah. So Mookie was first among right fielders with fielding run value at plus 12, second among all outfielders in defensive run saved at 27, and tied for third with 12 outfield assists. I'm fine with that. Why is Nick Castellanos not on this list, who had no errors this year? Why is Ronald Acuna Jr. not on this list with his cannon of an arm and the number of guys he guns down trying to advance or trying to score? Like there are teams that stopped trying to tag from third on fly balls to right because of Acuna's arm. That makes absolutely no sense why those 2 guys are not on there with Mookie.
Yeah, I mean, Mookie was more of a. We'll get to that when we get to utility, though. Well,
yeah,
I'll rant there.
I feel like Mookie. I'm okay with Mookie being listed for right field. That is his primary position. I still don't know why he has second base eligibility in fantasy. He does not play enough second base to have second base eligibility. Sorry, Jason. Yeah, here we. Sorry, did I say that out loud? My bad. My bad. So, I'm just looking at some of Acuna's numbers here. I mean, Acuna he had 10 outfield assists out there, along with 281 putouts, 983 fielding percentage out there. The dude's got a cannon. He can gun anybody down from anywhere. The range factor per 9 for Acuna was 1.92, which is great. And per game it was 1.87. I don't understand, one, how we come up with some of these guys and how they get picked. And, number two, with outfielders, I'm going to say it again. Let's go back to the way things were. Put them all in one block and just pick the top three, regardless of position.
Yeah,
Don't break it down by position.
Yeah, I think breaking it down like they're doing is just it. It's not as doesn't seem as fun. Where if you put 9 to 12 guys' names in a hat and pull the best three out, it's a little more like top tier, I guess.
I think it's a better representation of who the best outfielders were. So, and again, Castellanos should absolutely be on that list. It's criminal that he is not.
Well, and if you look at it, if they would go back, to doing just the outfield, it's pretty much what you're doing when you're voting for the All-Star game. You don't go, hey, I'm going to pick this left fielder or this right fielder. No, I want this outfielder, and
no,
this
you just pick outfielders. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes no sense that they break that down by position, especially because outfielders so often will switch positions around in the middle of the game if they need to for defensive substitutions. So, looking at the catchers, Patrick Bailey of San Francisco, Gabriel Moreno of the Diamondbacks, JT Realmuto of Philadelphia. And, good for Realmuto to get on the list because, honestly, it was kind of a down year for Realmuto, which means it was above compared to a regular player that's still an above average year. The fact that Patrick Bailey is on there surprised me a little bit. He does have a great fielding run value at plus 18, and he's a plus 16 framer. Why is Sean Murphy not one of these finalists? I would have him over Gabriel Moreno in a heartbeat. Definitely a better, teams could not, putting the playoffs aside because the playoffs are a completely different animal. Teams did not run on Atlanta the way they did in years past because of Murphy behind home plate. He is such a good catcher, not only at controlling a pitching staff, but at throwing runners out trying to advance. The fact that he's not on there, that one's the one that really surprised me the most. Because let's remember, in the preseason, we were all talking about how the NL East suddenly became the don't run division because of Realmuto and Murphy. And we all fully expected to see Realmuto and Murphy as two of the names on Golden Glove for years to come. So I'm very surprised by that. All right, looking at the pitchers, Jesus Luzardo of Miami, Taijuan Walker of Philadelphia, Zach Wheeler of Philadelphia. It's for the last 9 years, it's either been Zach Greinke or Max Fried. Greinke is with the Royals, and Fried was injured for most of the year, so that's why he is not one of the three. And again, Ranger being injured is why he wasn't on there because he was a finalist last year. I'm thinking either Luzardo or Walker will probably win it, but we'll see. I know Wheeler's got a decent enough glove. I don't feel like I ever see him make too many spectacular plays, but again, I don't really watch the Phillies that much if they're not playing Atlanta. But I've just, when I think of Wheeler, I don't think of his glove. I think of his arm. It's not like Maddox, who you thought of everything, including his glove. But again, Maddox is the obvious exception to everybody when it comes to fielding. So
yeah, I think Walker will pull over Luzardo just because of having the pickoff move that he has.
That's really that's a strong thing to consider. He has a great pickoff move. And then the utility guys, you've got Mookie Betts, Tommy Edman, Hae-Sung Kim. Once again, you got to pick one or the other.
This is where my rant is. Like,
go ahead.
Now you have Mookie in both, where you could have him just in utility and put either Nick or Acuna in for right field instead of taking up that spot.
Right, and Tommy Edmonds and Hae-Sung Kim both. Edmund
that too.
Was Edmund or was it Hae-Sung Kim that was on at second base? Kim, yeah. I think Tommy Edmund was last year I'm thinking of. But yeah, that drives me nuts. I love that we added utility to the Gold Gloves because they absolutely deserved recognition. But we need to decide where you should be. Yeah. Nobody should be eligible at multiple positions. So That's my rant, and I'm sticking with it.
Because like, what if they win both? Can they win both? Is that allowed?
I
Or
I think it is. I think it
see,
is
that's
possible to win both.
I
I
think that's
really
what
hope
it
it doesn't
should.
happen. Yeah, I really hope it doesn't happen.
It really should be one or the other. It shouldn't be, oh, you can go out here win 2 Gold Gloves in 1 year and take it away from somebody else that deserves it.
Yeah, complete agreement with you there. All right, so let's move into the playoffs now. Now that we're getting ready for the World Series, we'll quick hit the early rounds. The wild card round was, frankly, one of the most boring rounds I have ever seen. All four series were sweeps. Philly took out Miami. Arizona took out Milwaukee. The Twins surprisingly took out Toronto. It's not an upset per se because the Twins were the higher seed, but I was surprised. And the bigger surprise, perhaps, was the Rangers taking care of Tampa. But again, Tampa being as hurt as they were in the pitching staff, I wasn't completely surprised by it.
Yeah.
And then we have the divisional series. We'll touch on ours last. The Astros and the Twins. The Astros took that 3-1. The Twins did win Game 2, 6-2. And then the Rangers swept the Orioles, and you had one close game. Game 1 was 3-2. Game 2 wasn't too far off, 11-8. But then Game 3, the Rangers just opened the floodgates for a 7-1 victory.
Honestly, that series. Sorry for interrupting, but that series was just shocking. I didn't think it was going to be a sweep.
The Rangers put shock and awe in the Orioles. That's what happened there. And the playoff format needs to be tweaked again. I think we'll talk more about that when we get Jason and Joe back on after the World Series, but I'm not really happy with the playoff format now that I've seen it for 2 years in a row. And you see the top seeds actually come in at a huge disadvantage because of all of those days off. I think baseball needs to figure that out and compress the schedule more so that it's less time off, because baseball is such a continuously played game. And you see it in the NHL too. The teams that sweep quickly and then have to wait for a 7-game series before they know their next opponent. The team that sweeps off in the first maybe even game and a half, it's rusty watching the players trying to get back into rhythm after all that time down. And then in the National League, the Diamondbacks swept the Dodgers and 11-2 to open it up, but then it was 4-2, 4-2 the rest of the way out. It got close, but I wasn't surprised to see the Dodgers go down. I mean, they're pitching like the Rays. Their pitching's in shambles, and Clayton Kershaw sucks in the playoffs. Let's be blatantly honest about this. Clayton Kershaw is not a good playoff pitcher. He is a great pitcher. He will be a Hall of Famer. He is a garbage playoff pitcher and should always be remembered as such. Sorry, Kershaw, but it's the truth. I know he's going to be back on yet another 1-year deal, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Anyway, so that's, the Dodgers were the Dodgers. And once again, I really do feel like the top teams are getting penalized with all that time off. But what do I know? Oh, geez, yeah. Kershaw's career in the playoffs, 13-13, a 4.49 ERA. And his whip is, where's his whip? 1.11. During his regular season career, with his career 79.9 WAR, 210-92 with a 2.48 ERA and a 1.004 whip. Yeah, I think that's all we need to say on that. And then there was Braves Phillies. Yeah. 3-1 series victory, 3-0 Phillies game 1, 5-4 Braves in game 2 on that incredible come from behind walk-off. Game 3 was a 10-2 blowout, and then game 4 was, frankly, it was a 3-1, and it was really close. The Braves had a great rally in the 8th inning that just fell short. Finally, the Phillies found some defense in the outfield, which is something that I've said for years has been a problem, and it finally is not anymore. So good on the Phillies for that. Although I got to be honest, I wouldn't be upset to see Harper back in right, Cassiano shifted to left. But
Well,
Marsh is doing well in left. I don't know that you really want to mess with it and just leave Harper at first. I don't know.
it honestly, I think at that point it's gonna be up to Harper. They're gonna, because they're paying him. They're gonna ask him what he wants to do.
And they should. Yeah, I really I have no arguments with letting the player make the decision there. Let him continue to be a super utility guy, or let him go back to the outfield, or let him play first. Yeah, that should be up to him. How much of this do I really want to delve into tonight?
Just start diving.
Just a couple quick thoughts. I think Snicker was outmanaged by and large in the series. Thompson made some decisions I found very odd, particularly game one, pulling Ranger as quickly as he did when Ranger was dealing. And I think that hurt him as the playoffs went on, going to his bullpen so quickly. But I felt like Snicker was a little too slow at taking pitchers out. There were just too many times that I thought, why are we going to push this one guy farther? Why are we going to push this one guy farther? And especially when Harper started to get hot, when Castellanos was getting hot, why do you keep pitching to those guys the way that you did? Game 4, Strider gave up those solo home runs, sure. Strider's going to strike out a lot of guys. He's going to give up some solo shots. His slider was wicked in game 1. Game 4, it wasn't as sharp. But when he was pumping the heat, the Phillies were not catching up with it. When they hit the home runs, they hit him on hanging sliders that he left up. So some of that I think is Strider's a younger pitcher. He wasn't maybe necessarily comfortable just trying to pump heat the whole time. I think he wanted to try and incorporate his other stuff. And I'd like to see next year from Spencer Strider. I want to start seeing him. I want to start seeing him use that changeup more. I'd like to see him try and develop a fourth pitch, whether it's like a curveball or a slurve, or it's just something else to break up the 2-pitch fastball slider. And it's a wicked combination. I don't want to take anything away from it. But I'd like to see him pick up another pitch so that when he breaks out that fastball slider, they're even more wicked because you're not sure what's coming. Or even a sinker would actually probably be a good choice for him.
Yeah, I like to see him pick up probably a slur.
Yeah. I mean, it's so close to the slider grip already, and the slider arm motion. It's just a little bit slower. He'd be just fine with it. So yeah, it was a disappointing loss. You hate to see him go down to the Phillies for a second year in a row. I know everybody makes a big deal of, Atlanta's never beat Philly in the playoffs. They've faced each other 3 times. It's true they haven't beaten them, but let's be real. There haven't been very many opportunities. There haven't been a whole lot of opportunities.
Hey, you got to have something to look forward to.
I guess. I mean, it's like the Mariners saying, yeah, our World Series winning percentage might be 0, but at least we've never lost one. I mean, that's kind of what that feels like to me.
Yeah.
There's more I could delve into with Bryce Harper. I don't think I want to get into that tonight.
No.
All I'm going to say is I'm really disappointed in Harper's demeanor and how he carried himself. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And we're going to move on for right now. I don't want to delve into that tonight. The only other thing I want to say is I'm disappointed in Harper's actions because he was a guy I hated in Washington. I thought he was an arrogant punk. And he really started to mature and grow up in Philadelphia. And he was almost becoming likable. And just the way he was going off on Arcia with the throat slashing and all of that. I'm done with Harper. I'm not going to be upset if he gets a couple thrown in his chin next year by the Braves. All right, moving it on to the NLC. One other note, Ron. We really got robbed. It should have been, going back to the playoff format. Braves Phillies really should have been the NLCS.
Yeah.
That was a better series than and the NLCS was a good series, but I think Braves Phillies over 7 games would have been a better series.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought the same thing kind of last year. It would have been a lot better to see it then. Plus, at least, the only thing we had going for us this year, I don't think they played any day games.
That's true. No, the schedule was set correctly for Atlanta and Philadelphia. Because they were they were the 2 best damn teams in the playoff from the National League. They shouldn't have had any night. It should have been all night games, no day games, and that's exactly what happened. We might have had the one. I think we had 1 6 o'clock start time in Philly, but okay, that's close enough to prime time. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm saying like there was, I think
No
it was
what?
5 o'clock,
Yeah, no
but
1 to 3 or 4. Nothing between 1 and 4.
yeah, where I had to put YouTube up on my forklift at work and watch it that way. So it was nice being able to still get home at a timely manner and still see it.
Man, I remember last year. Last year, obviously, I was at work for most of the game, so I had the Braves radio feed pulled up in my ear while I was mowing. And Chuck is a big Phillies fan, so after each half inning, I'd sound off on the radio and give Chuck an update. Might have drove a couple people nuts, but I don't really care. If I had to work, I was still listening to playoff baseball. All right, and then the ALCS, both of the CS series went 7, which is just awesome. Rangers Astros, that was a hate-filled bloodbath, and I loved it. Rangers took it 4-3. Game 1 was 2-0 Rangers. Game 2 was 5-4 Rangers. Game 3, 4, and 5 all went to the Astros 8-5, 10-3, 5-4. Game 6 was a 9-2 Rangers victory, and then Game 7 was just an absolute laughable blowout, 11-4. You had some benches clearing brawls. The Rangers, I didn't realize this. The Rangers are the first team in League Championship Series history to lose all of their home games and win the LCS. That has never happened before.
Oh, that's right, they did.
Yeah. Yep, the Astros won in Texas, won in Arlington, I should say, since they're all in Texas, and they lost in Houston. And Houston's got a decent home field advantage. I wouldn't call it a great home field advantage, but they have a decent home field advantage. So, what? That was a little bit wild. We also had, like I said, we had the benches clearing brawl, but on top of that, we had a suspension from said benches clearing brawl. And we had one of the most curious decisions I think I have ever heard from an arbitration. And that was when they decided that, hold on, where is it? Come on. Sorry, I'm scrolling back because I can't remember the guy's name. Abreu.
Yeah.
So Abreu threw inside. He hit Garcia, Brian Abreu. Baseball suspended him for 2 games. He appealed, and the arbitrator upheld the 2-game suspension, but delayed the start of it until 2024. So that meant that Brian Abreu was available for Game 7 and did come in the 6th inning. And for the record, he hit the second batter he faced, Mitch Garver, on the left side with a 97.2 mile an hour fastball. His postseason ERA went to 4.32 because after that, Nathaniel Lowe smashed a 2-run shot off him, as they should have.
Yeah. Exactly.
So clearly the arbitrator, I guess, I have never heard, I've never ever in all of my life as a sports fan, watching sports, seeing players get suspended in the playoffs for their actions, I have never once seen a playoff suspension upheld but moved to the next regular season. If it happened in the playoffs, the suspension should have been upheld in the playoffs. It is absolutely ridiculous that he was allowed to pitch in Game 7. Makes no sense to me.
Well, that's the MLB for you.
But it wasn't. That was the arbiter.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's an outside group.
Yep, that's somebody unaffiliated with both baseball and the PA. I think they both work together to pick the arbiters, but they're completely independent. So, yeah, I got nothing. I have no idea why that happened. Um, yeah. Let's see here. Who was the arbiter? It was John McHale. Yeah, John McHale, who's a special assistant to the commissioner, but an independent arbiter. He determined the suspension was reasonable, but didn't think it was appropriate to affect such an important game. Well, then maybe he should have made the choice to not freaking throw it, guys. If you want to be available, don't throw it, guys.
Uh,
Dumb as hell. All right, and then the NLCS Diamondbacks did beat the Phillies 4-3. Phillies came out hot. They won game 1 5-3, won game 2 10-0. And then the Diamondbacks just came storming back. Getting home really helped them. 2-1 in game 3, 6-5 in game 4. The Phillies did take game 5, 6-1. And then it was all Diamondbacks the rest of the way. 5-1 in game 6, and then 4-2 in game 7. Craig Kimbrell, man.
oh my God.
I'm always going to love the guy for his years in Atlanta because we got the best years of Kimbrell, and boy, did it show. I mean, I got to see the guy pitch live in his prime back in good old Turner Field. Yeah, it was that long ago. But he should not be the closer anymore. He should be the setup man or a seventh inning guy. He does not have the stuff to be a closer. His accuracy is not as sharp as it once was. His pitches aren't as sharp, so he's not going to get the swing and misses that he used to get. I mean, he pitched fine against Atlanta, but you could tell there were already issues because he was walking a lot of guys. And Atlanta just being hyper aggressive as a team hitting. You know, he was able to induce enough bad contact to get around the walks he kept giving up. So
something needs to be done.
And bullpen was actually a moderate strength for the Phillies for the first time I can remember in probably 11, 12 years, to be honest, at least, if not longer. And Thompson made a lot of good moves throughout the playoffs, but you know, I wonder, going to the bullpen as early as he did against Atlanta, you know, that's a lot of added stress in those arms. He had a ton of high velocity guys, which is great. You know, remember when Ranger pitched against Atlanta, Ranger was the slowest pitcher from either team because both teams were throwing out guys with such high velo. But there comes a point where you have to say, well, velo is clearly not the answer because these guys are still getting hit, number one. Number two, the velo guys, they wear out faster. That's a lot more effort to throw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball than it is to throw a knuckleball. And I know I'm looking at the two most extremes you can have, but the point stands.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, the Phillies bats just went ice cold and nobody could protect Bryce Harper from game 3 on. And it showed.
Yeah, there was a stat. I forget what it was, but between Schwarber, Harper, Turner, Castellanos, I don't think Bohm was in that, but they had one hit between all of them between game 6 and 7.
I think I read Bohm from game like 4 on or 5 on went over 22 or something like that.
Well, Bohm had a home run in game 7, but yeah, he didn't help, but still, your power bats, what like you said, went ice cold.
And you know, something I thought about after the Braves-Phillies series was over, you replay that series 100 times and you're probably going to get close to 50-50, maybe 55-45 results. It's not, it's everybody's like, hey, it would have happened again. No, I really don't think it would have, because in the playoffs, hot streaks and cold streaks are so incredibly amplified, unlike the regular season. And pitchers are just so more amped up that those swings happen so much faster for the hitters. Atlanta's offense by and large went cold. Philadelphia's offense didn't. And then in the NLCS, Philly's offense was hot for 2 games, and then it went ice cold pretty much the rest of the series, game 5 aside. It's tough.
It's the game of baseball.
Yeah, it is. So, looking now at the World Series, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are perfect in World Series appearances. And you
They
have
only
the
have one.
well, hey, that was a big one. They knocked Mariano Rivera off. That was arguably one of the biggest World Series wins of all time, to knock the freaking Yankees off their pedestal. And then you have the Texas Rangers, who still have never won a World Series. They are 0-2. This is their 3rd appearance. I remember 2010 and 2011 when Ron Washington was leading the team. Boy, those were tough losses. Those were really, really tough. 2011, that was, I know 2010 was the Giants. Who won in 11?
Who was that?
Was that the Cardinals? Yeah, that was the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, 2 really tough losses for Ron Washington. I really thought the Rangers would have won at least one of those. So, this is going to be, I think, a great World Series, honestly. Here is the schedule set up. I just had it. Where did it go? Here we go. So it starts Friday night. All the games will be held on Fox. It'll be the Rangers have home field advantage, so the first 2 games will be in Texas. Games 3 through 5, 5, 6, 7, of course, if necessary, will be in Arizona, and then 6 and 7 back in Texas. Pitching probables have not yet been announced. I expect the teams will probably sit on that for as long as
Gallen
possible.
is going game 1.
Oh, are they going to go? Well, okay.
I saw that today. I didn't see who the Rangers went with, but I'm sure it's probably going to be Mad Max.
Yeah, I know he's got the cut on his finger, but he's, everything I've read said he's not worried about it, and he should be fine to pitch in the World Series. That shouldn't be an issue. So we'll see about that. That might be the biggest thing I worry about with that. For Scherzer.
It's how the hell do you pronounce his last name? It's gonna be Gallen versus starts with an E. EO.
Eovaldi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate
Game
Eovaldi.
1.
Interesting. Okay.
Let me see if I can see game 2 here.
I'm really kind of surprised. Well, I'm not, because Eovaldi has had a really good postseason so far, and he had a great regular season. I mean, the turnaround for Eovaldi from his last year in Boston to where he is now with the Rangers is just kind of wild, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just game 1 pitchers were announced. That's for now.
Yeah, I would expect that to be pretty day-to-day from here on out. All right, so Ron, let me put you on the spot then. Who are you picking?
I'm going Rangers.
How many?
I'm gonna go Rangers in 6.
Okay. I'm also going to go Rangers. I'm going to go Rangers in 5. I think the Diamondbacks only managed 1. The Diamondbacks did show that they can hit good pitching. I think the Rangers pitching is significantly better than what Philly was throwing at them last round.
And honestly, if I'm gonna give the Diamondbacks 2 wins, only because if they can get a lead and they have to bring that bullpen in, they have the guys that can do it.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks bullpen was scary good. I would agree with that. All right, so that's the World Series. We will see how this rolls out. I think it's going to be a good one regardless. I know it's going to be tough for Phillies fans. They're thinking we should have been back there again this year, but that's also baseball too. I said that about Atlanta last year, and I said that about Atlanta this year. That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
It's just, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's the way the ball game goes.
Yep. All right. Well, Ron, any other final thoughts you want to have before we sign off until after the World Series?
Yeah, I hope the Diamondbacks get pounded because of what they did to the Phillies field with the flag.
That might cause a benches clearing incident next year and possibly a hit batsman or two. I would not be shocked if that's the case. Personally, I found it kind of funny as well as idiotic and stupid. But you won the big series on the field. Philly had a chance to stop them and they couldn't do it. So it's not right. I don't condone it. If I was a coach and I saw a player do that, I would be giving that player an earful for quite a while.
Exactly.
But it was kind of funny. All right, guys, you can find the audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere else you can get your podcast. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. Twitter, the podcast page is at DDAB_podcast. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at JoltonJoe35. Ron is at Dipner Ron. We're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. We will see you after the World Series.